Hey guys, how you doing? Pete here from Dr. Buff. Today's little video is going to be all about the difference between paint correction and spray painting a car. I've been in this paint correction game pretty much all my life, and I've always come to know that if you can restore a factory paint job, it's going to be much better than actually having it resprayed. I've seen the proof of it. I've repaired far too many cars from resprays or bad resprays, and I know just how long factory spray jobs can last for. When the car's looked after properly, that means no car washes, no cheap products, no abuse in paintwork, no using bad techniques. When you stick to those simple rules, a factory paint job can take you a pretty long way, especially when you know what the hell you're doing with it. I've buffed and corrected enough cars to know that you can get a killer finish and a killer shine out of a factory paint job. It's the proof's all over my website. There's plenty of other cars from other businesses that do the same thing, where you can look at factory paint jobs and say, well, I don't need aftermarket respray. Aftermarket resprays have their inherent issues. There are plenty of good spray painters out there, but not enough of them in terms of what you would want out of a finished result. And in some cases, some people spend $20,000 plus to get the desired paint result. In my opinion, having to spend $20,000 for a spray job is it's a little out there. I certainly wouldn't spend $20,000 on a spray job. I mean, the tops I would go is maybe $10,000 tops to get a car resprayed. And if you ask me, that should be more than sufficient to get a half-decent paint job that you would be satisfied with, that you could honestly pick up from the panel beater or the spray painter and say, yep, I'm happy with that. There's no runs, there's no pitting, there's no blisters, there's no fish eyes, there's no orange peel or excessive amounts of it. You don't have panels that look uneven to other panels in terms of sanding or orange peel or flatness. If you could spend 10 grand and get that, then I would tell you you're doing quite okay. But in most cases, from what I see, that's not the usual case in terms of where people spend $10,000 to get a spray job, which they're reasonably satisfied with, and I don't come across it very often. I often do get quite a few cars that have got extensive damage from either bad techniques in polishing, or somebody's used the rotary buffer and done some horrendous damage to a paint job using poor quality compounds. Cars which have been repeatedly abused by car washers. Those cars will have severe damage. In some cases, chemical burn from the products they use on it. There'll definitely be severe scratches in the paintwork, and these scratches run deep, which they repeatedly used over a 3-4 year period. It'll destroy a paint job. And the usual start with these paint jobs breaking down as a clear coat starts to let go. Probably more than likely because of the poor quality products that are used on the cars themselves. Having said that, though, a lot of cars which go through car washes can be restored, but they're still not cheap to restore because there is so much labour in trying to bring back the factory paintwork. It's not funny, and it can take up to 3 or 4 days at a time, depending on what's required. But usually, if the paint job is restorable, it will 9 times out of 10, when it's completed, it will look better than what it did new. That's provided you have paint. If you have no paint, you're going to be in trouble. Then you will be up for a respray. So I often get people telling me, does my car need a respray? Because it's really badly stuffed up or badly eroded, and it's not always the case. A lot of people don't realise that a lot of surface damage on paint is usually just top surface, and a stage 1 in many cases will eradicate a lot of it. But sometimes you will run into the stage 2 or stage 3s, which are quite aggressive, and they will take a fair bit of work to take out. For instance, I might get, say, 10 stage 1s before I get a stage 3. All right, so the stage 3s do come along, but not as often as the stage 1s or stage 2s. They're basically paint jobs that are in severe trouble, or customers are looking, in reality, a respray if the paint job can't be saved. So for those who are asking, should I get my car resprayed because it looks really dull, it's heavily scratched, it's heavily swirled, and you basically have this overall view that your paint job is cactus and it's no longer good, don't automatically jump to that assumption, because as I just stated earlier, it's usually top surface. Even if it goes deep, in most cases it can be restored, and when it is restored, you will not believe the remarkable difference it makes to your paint job. And basically the vehicle you bring in is not the vehicle you pick up. You would think your car's been resprayed and looks better than a respray, because the paintwork has been finessed. It's not just resprayed and sent out the door. Paintwork that is finessed, smoothed out, flattened, highly polished, and paint silver is going to look far better than any standard respray. All right. In terms of depth gloss, it's been treated. Resprays are not normally treated. They're just sprayed. They might get a once over buff to remove staining marks, and that's it. But work that's been corrected, paintwork that's been corrected, is usually finessed. It's highly polished. It's highly de-swirled, so there's no buff trails, there's no nothing, and then you add paint sealers, and the paint job just, well, it explodes, it goes through the roof. So don't go automatically assuming that because you have a paint job which is looking really bad, really buggered up, that it's going to need a respray. You'll know when your paint job needs a respray. When you see clear coat peeling off, when you see a white looking fade which is looking kind of porous on your surfaces, well, yes, then your paint job is finished, you've destroyed it, and you will be up for minimum a half decent respray, about $10,000 and upwards, depending on what you want. To get a respray these days where you can actually pick the car up and almost have nothing to say about it in terms of no complaints, you have to spend at least $20,000+. Now, if you don't want to have any complaints about your paint, in terms of how it looks or how it appears, making sure that all panels are even, there's no mismatching your paint, your peel looks even, there's not one panel that looks different to the other panel in terms of depth or gloss or peel or whatever, there's no fish eyes, no nothing, maintain your factory paint job. This I cannot stress enough. I don't like spray painting my cars. I do my best to always maintain my own cars, customers' cars, and 10 out of 10 customers that pick up their cars from here, when they're done, they always tell me, this is not the car I brought in, this is a completely different vehicle. And it's only got to do with one thing: maintaining the car the right way. When you do that with factory paintwork, you cannot go wrong, and you will not run into the realm of requiring a respray 5 years down the track, because you started, for starters, you're looking after your paintwork the right way. You're not putting it through car washes. You're not doing anything silly like that. And it's going to last you. There's no reason a factory paint job, when cared for properly, shouldn't last you a long time, for many years. But you start abusing it, car washes, $2 car washes, mechanical washes, hand car washes that you drive into, where you have your latte. As far as I'm concerned, if it's not being washed on your driveway, it's a car wash. And if you're doing that, your paintwork's not going to last. And I've seen thousands of cars go through this whole scenario where I've restored paintwork in some cases, there's been cars that have not been able to be restored because the damage is just too far gone. And from there, automatically, you're looking at $10,000 and upwards to try and have a car resprayed. And the other thing is, most cars that are resprayed these days on cheap budgets, they're not resprayed properly. They're slapped together, cheap paints, cheap clears. The majority of the cars are all masked up, and it's just sprayed. They take your money, they give you poor quality, and then you're stuck with fish eyes, or craters, or blistering of paint 6 months down the track because thinners didn't evaporate fast enough during the oven process, or whatever the case may be. And there's all sorts of things that go wrong, shrinkage and God knows what else. So look after your paintwork, look after it the right way, use professionals to do it. If you've got weathered or scratched paintwork, one paint correction pass over will restore it, and from there on, if you look after it properly, look after it the right way, there's no reason your paintwork shouldn't stay looking glossy and full of depth for a very, very long time. So in terms of, should I get my car resprayed? Should I get it corrected? If you have paint, get it corrected, because it's going to look far better than any standard respray. All right. If you don't have paint, if it's eroded, if your clear coat's gone, if you've got a very porous looking fade where the paint's chalky, it's breaking down, well, you're up for a respray. But if your paint is savable, if your factory paint is savable, if it can be restored, always, always, always restore your factory paint. I hope that's some good input for today. Take care, guys.